We run our marriage meetings like a Fortune 500 company, and it saves me 20 text messages, 5 headaches, and my last brain cell every single week. We do it on Sundays with wine, and yes, there's even a sexy time section. So here's my marriage meeting to steal. My husband and I have been together for about 5 years and married for over 3. And we conduct a weekly marriage meeting so that we can stay on the same page about all of the moving pieces in our life. With a newborn daughter, multiple businesses, including building homes together and running a dental practice, it can be really, really tough to stay on the same page. Hell, it can be tough to read the same book. So this meeting keeps us in sync and aligned on all of the major decisions in our household. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what we discuss every Sunday over a glass of wine. But first, you need to set the stage. It's Sunday night. We've gone out on date night on Friday. We are feeling good. We're feeling happy. We're in a great mood. We never do the marriage meeting in a bad mood. We haven't had a fight that day, and there's no resentment lingering about anything big. So, with all of those requirements met, let's jump into the meeting. And if there is resentment that day, then we switch to a different kind of meeting, and that is much more about our feelings and our sentiments and the specific problem, and then we will push the marriage meeting to a different day that week. This is really critical because you do not want to mix business with your marriage. What do I mean by that? The marriage meeting is all about tasks and to-dos and obligations that you have to review together as a couple. It is not necessarily meant to create any kind of bond or mend anything that needs healing within the relationship. It's not an emotional affair, if that makes sense. And so we separate our emotional affairs, things that are like, I was hurt this week by, from our marriage meeting, which sounds more like we have the following trips coming up. And so today we're going to talk about the business side of our marriage. Taking care of business. We typically start our marriage meetings with a discussion of the family calendar. If you've watched my other videos, you know that systems are really important to me. So before we even jump into the meeting, everyone already has access to our family's Google Calendar. On that Google Calendar, Brandon and I add all of the events as they come in real time. But sometimes we don't necessarily have the opportunity to check in with each other. For example, a friend asks to hang out with both of us this Saturday. He sees that there's nothing on the calendar, and so he pencils in a tentative time for us to hang out with that friend. I notice that, oh goodness, my friend is having her annual barbecue that we definitely want to go to. I pencil that in so that at the marriage meeting, we now have all of the events that still need to be discussed firmly within our grasp and easily accessible. You can check out my other videos on digital organization for how to set all this up. We color code things in our family calendar. Things that are health related are green, stuff that is baby related is pink, and so on and so forth. The color coding allows us to easily determine whether we are prioritizing our week correctly. Everything goes on this calendar, from my batch filming YouTube videos all the way through Brandon's big surgeries that might keep him at the office an extra hour or two, in addition to our family trips and other major events. One big rule for us is that if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't exist. I don't care if it's a wedding. If it's not in our family calendar, we're not doing it. So this is something that I think every family needs to really stick to, because otherwise people don't take the calendar seriously. There have literally been days where my husband has asked to go to, let's say, like a football fantasy draft, whatever that thing is, and I've said it wasn't in the calendar and we've already got other family plans that day. And so he had to miss that. Similarly, there have been times when I have purchased things like concert tickets and totally goofed and didn't put it in the calendar. My husband made other plans, and so I had to honor the plans that were on our calendar. The calendar rules. But it's a super egalitarian calendar. Anybody can add to it, and we review it every single week to make sure that we're both on the same page and making sure that all of our interests and priorities are valued and respected on the calendar. But this is the foundation of our family business meeting, our family calendar. We like to use Google Calendar because it is free. We actually do use the paid version, but only because we have business emails, but the free version is what we were using prior to this, and it works beautifully. The next thing we dive into is our family budget. Budget for some people already brings up feelings of stress and anxiety, but the way that we do budgeting is a little bit different. We like to start our budgeting with sort of a fast money vibe check. How are we feeling about finances? Do we feel like we are moving in a positive direction or in a negative direction? And that really sets the tone for how we move forward in our budgeting. If either of us are having any anxieties about money, we're able to express our concerns there and dig into the numbers to really find out what's going on with our financial circumstances. One of the things I do to prep for the marriage meeting is download our QuickBooks P&L. Yes, we have a QuickBooks P&L. I will show that in a different video. And this P&L helps us keep track of all of our spending. We both have printed copies of our P&L, and we both use the Copilot app on our respective phones. Something really great is that between those two things, we're able to keep track of our expenses, what's come in, as well as all of our investments and how those are doing. It makes for a very quick and seamless budgeting process if there are no real anxieties. During this budget section, we talk about any major expenses coming up. We typically set a rule for each other on what a major expense looks like. So for some families, a major expense might be $100. For others, it might be $100,000. It really depends here on your level of comfort with spending. For us, any expense over about $1,000 to $1,500 is something that we at least like to talk about. So when I decided to buy this fabulous camera equipment to start a YouTube channel, I let my husband know, hey, I am going to be purchasing some camera equipment, and you might see that charge on our credit card coming through. Similarly, when my husband wanted to go to the Final Four and watch San Diego State play, he made sure to run that expense by me. These are simple safeguards so that we both feel like we're included in the conversation about money and one person isn't just making all of the decisions. We both have a fair say in our financial futures. This is also a really great place to align because later on, if we ever did face hardships, we're facing them together because our decisions have been made together. So I think it's really critical that we consider everyone in the relationship and don't make decisions in a silo, especially when you're married. Now, there are of course things that we absolutely disagree about. I have a little bit of a Starbucks habit, and I'm embarrassed to say that I spend probably $10 a day on a latte, but you know what? It brings me a little bit of joy. I do occasionally make my latte at home. I use something called Javi coffee, which is like a protein coffee that tastes pretty good, but sometimes I just want a decaf peppermint mocha with oat milk. I'm sorry, sue me. For these kinds of long-term spending habits or patterns, we definitely keep a watch on them and make sure that they don't get too out of hand. Another thing that I spend freely on are things for our kid, and sometimes I can go a little bit overboard with the Amazon boxes arriving at my house, and so my husband likes to know that I am keeping track of what we're buying for her, make sure that anything that needs to be returned is returned in a timely fashion, and just to make sure that overall I'm not wasting our money on silly gadgets, which sometimes I do. We really believe that what you spend money on mirrors your values, and most of our money is spent buying back our time. You can see my previous video for that, as well as spending money on experiences, travel, and really enhancing our family life. So we like to make sure that we categorize each of our expenses as a percentage of our total expenditure. What do I mean by that? If we notice that we're spending 20% of our income on clothes, and clothes are not necessarily in our value system, then we try to find ways to reduce that expense at all costs. We really only try to spend money on things that are aligned with who we want to be, where we want to go, and the people that we want to become and teach our children to become. And that doesn't include things like fast fashion, although it doesn't eliminate them altogether either. We really just try to limit our spending in these categories. Sometimes families can be hit with unforeseen circumstances. This is a time to budget those mishaps and misfortunes into the budget for the upcoming week and the upcoming months. So if we see that, oh, we've got to go visit a sick relative, what is that going to cost us and where is it coming from? So this is the time to really budget in for last minute occurrences and things that might just randomly occur that kind of suck but have to be paid for. After budgeting, we move on to date night. We really like to plan at least 2 big date nights per month. This can be something as simple as going to a really cute restaurant restaurant that we've both been wanting to try, to as elaborate as going to the Final Four. And so for us, planning a date night is something that we take turns doing. I'll talk about how we kind of do the division of labor with a different video, but we take turns planning the date night, but we do budget for the date night together. Sometimes we might be feeling like we need a little extra intimacy, and so we might add more to our date night budget. Sometimes we feel like we've been doing really well, or we're too busy to do anything extravagant, and so we might take a little bit less from that budget. But it is a time to discuss how extravagant we want to make our date nights, when the date night is going to be, and to line up any childcare that we might need, or let anyone know. Sometimes we do like double dates and we might want to invite friends, etc. This also allows us to do things like purchase tickets in advance if we're going to go see like a comedy show or a concert, as well as to plan out any special outfits or gear that we're going to need. Let's say that we take a romantic night walk on the beach. Well, I might want to buy some sandals for that, or I might want to order something for my Newly subscription for that. So it allows us to plan ahead for these date nights. During our date night section, we also reflect back on past date nights and talk about what's really worked for us and what we really enjoyed and what we feel has like brought us closer together. And so this is a really nice time to like reflect and get back into a happy mood, especially after talking about money. Along with date night, we also plan dun dun dun, sexy time. Yes, we plan sexy time. I know it's not romantic, it's not cool, but again, if it doesn't exist on the calendar, it's not happening. One thing that we noticed once we started all of our businesses and became super, super busy and weren't just working in corporate or as an associate doctor is that our lives became so hectic that it really didn't feel like we had time for connection and for each other. And so our couples counselor actually recommended that we plan in sexy time. And so that is now what we do. We ensure that we are healthy in that department and have a thriving life there. And we do that simply by adding that space and blocking off time in our calendar. There's nothing to be embarrassed about, by the way. If you're a couple who needs to do this, life happens and life gets in the way. And often that is one of the first things to go when life starts lifing. So please plan it, do it, and enjoy it. Another cute thing about planning sexy time is that you can kind of get in the mood beforehand. Like if you know your time is coming up, you might like to set the mood. You might send flirty text messages all day. And so it really makes it like an event that you plan for, and that makes it all the more special. Okay, now what's the opposite of sexy time? Alone time. The next segment we talk about is our alone time. My husband is an introverted extrovert, or an extroverted introvert. I don't know, an ambivert. And I'm very much an extrovert. So he definitely needs time to recharge. And sometimes that even means just kind of being alone without me, whether it's us hanging out together and watching a show, but I don't talk, or him doing something just completely on his own, taking a walk or watching sports downstairs, or even just mindlessly scrolling or laying in bed and taking a nap. And so we just make sure that each of us has the alone time that we need to recharge and be individual humans, which sometimes in a marriage can be tricky and we often don't leave space for. We really like to protect each other's alone time. So I know that he really wants to get in 3 workouts in a week between 6 and 7 p.m. I will make sure that we have childcare during that time so that my husband doesn't have to rush home after work and can go in and get the time that he needs by himself. So this is a time where we discuss our alone time and how we are going to make that alone time happen for each other. We used to have a section for meal prepping. We have since taken that out, but I will still include it here. The reason why we took it out is that we were actually able to hire this out, outsource this, and so now we no longer do the meal prepping or planning the grocery shopping or any of that. But prior to hiring our phenomenal chef, we did spend time planning out what the meals were going to be. I am not a very good cook, and so usually what this looked like was us picking meals on Garnish and Gather and me deciding what I was going to eat, because I usually don't like the food on any meal prep service. So I'm a little weird and picky, and that's for another day and my therapist. But one tip that I have here on the meal planning side is that if you are not a cook and you don't particularly like the idea of like planning specific meals through a service like HelloFresh or Garnish and Gather, one of these like big name companies, might I recommend Easy Cater. Easy Cater is a catering website where you can order food in bulk for things like parties. And one of the things that I found is that if you go to Easy Cater, you can order, for example, 2 trays of chicken and a tray of beef, and then make meals with that chicken and beef all week. And it's not the same meal every day. Maybe one day you make chicken tacos and the next day you have, I don't know, chicken Alfredo, but it allows you to have the bulk of your meal prepped for you at a really low price. So check out some of these catering websites and see what you can buy in trays rather than per meal, and then see what you can do to incorporate those trays into your weekly meal planning. It comes out to a very inexpensive meal. Another thing that we've done in the past is go to our local Whole Foods. So Whole Foods has these unlimited boxes that you can put together. You can choose from their hot food selection, from their soup selection, from their salad selections, and this is great because you can basically fill up a few boxes for the week and have all of your meals already ready. I do switch them into glass Tupperware when I come home with Whole Foods meals, but again, this is a way that you can buy your prepped meal in bulk, not have to eat the same foods every day, and really have a lot more customization than what you would get from like a meal prep service. Also, you don't have to cook your own food in these cases. They're already pre-cooked. At best, you're like putting them together with other stuff in your kitchen. So that's my hot tip. Moving on, one of the biggest pieces of our marriage meeting is the "what can I help you with" question. This is where each of us dives into the problem or stress or nuisance that we're facing that week so that we can get support from the other person. What can I do for you this week might mean, hey, I really need you to take extra time with the baby this week so that my brain can recalibrate. It also might look like, hey, I really need you to skip work one day because I'm having a really tough time mentally and I just need your support and I need your presence. It could mean something as simple as, can you go and drop off something for a friend of mine who just had a baby? I don't know what that thing might be. This week, my husband asked me to book tickets for him to Santa Barbara so that he could go to his fantasy football draft, which is why it's on my brain. It also allows us to gauge where each of us are mentally and emotionally without diving into a deeper emotional conversation. One thing that I've noticed is that we really try to balance each other out. If I see that my husband needs a lot from me that week, I might ask less of him that week. So he might ask me to book a trip and help him out at the office and drop what I'm doing to run some errands for him. And if I notice that he's feeling overwhelmed, I might say, you know what, all I need from you this week is just a kiss on the cheek every night. And just that makes it really, really nice and sweet and simple. And it shows that I care about him without having to say, hey, are you feeling overwhelmed, and getting into like a deeper emotional conversation that the marriage meeting isn't necessarily designed or prepared to handle in that moment. Similarly, if I am feeling like I am going nuts and the baby has been tough, or it's just been a really rough week for me, and I ask him, hey, I just really need some additional support, he might say, you don't need to do anything for me this week. Just show up and take care of yourself. That's all I care about. So it just really is a place for your partner to show up for you as well. My favorite part of the marriage meeting is the part where we set boundaries. There is a question on our marriage meeting template that asks, what do we need to say no to today? And this is probably the best question, because every no that you say to something you half-heartedly want to do opens you up to enthusiastically say yes to something you really, really, really want to do. And often when we're evaluating all of the things that our friends want us to do, that our family wants us to commit to, that our businesses are demanding of us, sometimes we just have to take a step back and figure out what we want to say no to. We usually try to force ourselves to say no to at least one thing, so that way we know that we're prioritizing our schedules the right way and making space for the things that we really care about in our lives. Next are apologies. Micro apologies go next. So this is something where I might say, hey babe, I'm so sorry. I was not acting my best on Tuesday when I snapped at you over you leaving your boxers on the floor. So something like that, that's small and tiny and just needs a small acknowledgement or a tiny apology, a micro apology, if you will, is what we would cover in this marriage meeting. If we had a really big fight, we typically use a completely different format for going over bigger issues or ongoing issues, just so that way we kind of, like I said, separate the emotional from the business side of things and can make this meeting really about prepping us for the next week rather than deep diving into what happened the week or month before that is causing pain. So they're two different meetings. But micro apologies are important because they show your partner that, yeah, you noticed that you weren't your best in a moment, and they also make your partner feel seen, heard, and validated. Then we wrap it up. We basically do a brief run through of the calendar, make sure everything we said no to and all of our budgeting was incorporated into that calendar and into our plans for the week. We give each other a huge kiss. Sometimes it turns into a makeout session, and we wrap it up. So that is our marriage meeting, one 45-minute meeting every single week that will make you feel super aligned to your partner and make you feel like you are ready to conquer the following day. I'm going to link our template below, and it is totally free to steal. If you do marriage meetings, I want to know, what else do I need to incorporate to make this meeting even more powerful? Please leave your response in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it, I'm hoping that you'll like and subscribe or hype it up. Thanks so much.